I really like it here emotionally. I feel I can be myself here more.
This is David, a former lawyer and teacher for adjudicated and community youths from Detroit, Michigan. After dedicating his life to serving his community, he moved to Cuenca 2 years ago and hasn't looked back. He shares what drew him to retire here, what keeps him staying in Cuenca, and why returning to the US is not in his plans. I'm Average Joe. Let's go! Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background. What do you do for work when you were younger?
Oh, I did a lot of things, mostly in the service area. I was a social worker, a lawyer, a union organizer, a teacher. So I was always trying to serve people in one way or another.
Which one do you enjoy most?
I think the teaching. I taught history and literature in Detroit Public Schools. And I also taught in a Catholic school for adjudicated youth, kids who were in the criminal justice system or aged out of foster care.
There must be a lot of stories.
Yeah.
How did you come from that to retire in Cuenca?
Well, we had thought about retiring abroad, and there was a magazine that talked about retiring abroad and said that Cuenca and Ecuador were the best places in the world to retire. And so we visited Cuenca about 10 years ago and visited Ecuador. We really liked it. And then we came back to the States and worked for a while and decided we were going to retire. And we came here about 2 years ago.
But why not retire in the US? Isn't it better in the US?
It's more affordable here. That was a motivating factor.
Is that the only factor or?
No, when we came here 10 years ago, they had a different government, which was more progressive.
I see.
And so we really liked it, but then it changed. The government changed. And, but we still liked Ecuador. I mean, we're learning more about it now because we're living here. Before we just toured the country for about 2 months. But living here is different than touring.
Wasn't it hard on an emotional level to leave the US almost permanently?
Not really, not for me. It was a little more difficult for my wife. She was used to certain conveniences, like having her own car. Here we use taxis. But for me, I didn't really have much of an emotional reaction. In fact, I really like it here emotionally. I think the people are more friendly, and I feel I can be myself here more. I can get to know myself better in a different environment than when I was immersed in the United States culture. And Ecuador is much different than the United States, I think.
You said you kind of moved here in and out 10 years ago, right?
Right.
Was it easy for you to adapt to living here in Cuenca versus in the US?
For me, it wasn't difficult. I'm kind of a people person. I like people. But I do think it takes 2, 3, 4 years to really adapt. I'm taking Spanish at the University of Cuenca, Spanish for foreigners. I've learned enough Spanish to get around, but not necessarily to engage in the kinds of conversations that I would have in the United States. Just in terms of shopping and all the little things you got to do in your life, it takes a little while. But then adjusting to the culture and getting part of the vibe, I think takes a while also.
Would you say if you don't speak Spanish, it's going to be difficult to integrate into Cuenca, or is it fine because there's just a big community of expats here already?
Yeah, there's a big community of expats here. People seem to like Americans here and are helpful. If you want help, there's a lot of people that speak English here. So I don't think it's difficult. But if you want to integrate into the Ecuadorian community, as opposed to staying mostly with the expats, I think that's more difficult because of the language.
Speaking about that, I also have that problem. Do you find it easy to make local friends here?
Well, as I said, I'm taking Spanish for foreigners at the university, and I've become friends with some of my professors. But just out in the street, just meeting people, I think the language is an issue. I'm not fluent in Spanish.
It's more about understanding what they're saying.
And also, I'm older, so I'm not as social as I was if I were younger in terms of going out to events. And there's so many social things to do, so many holidays. But I'm a bit older and I stay home a lot.
What kind of social events have you attended here?
Well, I've enrolled in the program, the university program for older adults, and they have lots of plays and concerts, things that you can go to. You could also go to the symphony on Friday nights, the symphony orchestra. That's free. There's football. There's a lot of holidays here. Like our teacher, people make fun of mañana, mañana, but that's a bit of the philosophy here. Like, you're not as rushed as you seem to be in the United States. And the holidays are beautiful with the Catholic pageantry and things, and they have lots of parades. So there's lots of restaurants. They have a thing called Gringo Post, which advertises, the restaurants and the holidays, the jazz clubs. So really, there's more to do here, quite frankly, than there was where I lived before in the United States.
Share with me about your daily life here in Cuenca.
I think there's more to do here than in Detroit. And Detroit does not have a good public transportation system. And here you can just hail a cab or take the tranvia or take the bus, so it's easier to get around. I take Spanish 3 days a week at the university for 2 hours, so that gets me moving.
There's no problems you going to the university. Absolutely.
No, I just, I live in a nice apartment building. There's a 24-hour guard. They'll call me a cab. Cab comes right to the house. Cost me a couple of dollars to get to the university. Would have cost more for a car, for insurance, for gas, car payment. And so I'm there 3 days a week. And then I'm in physiotherapy at a university medical center. That's a couple of days a week for an hour. So I sort of organize my life around those activities. Plus, I'm on some Zoom calls from home, and I do that a couple of times a week. And then if we want to go out to eat, we go out to eat, or we can food gets delivered here. Apparently, a lot of guys on motorcycles, if you want the food delivered, they'll come and get the food delivered to you.
Uber Eats.
Yeah, they just bring you the food. Apparently, that started a lot during COVID, because people were having a lot of things delivered during COVID.
I guess it's like the same everywhere.
But you can, with all these electronics, you can phone anybody anywhere in the world or watch any television programs or movies. It's really strange. You don't even feel like you're in another country in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people with their children out. The children are so cute. Where I lived, everybody was in the car. People walk here. It's a walkable city. There's a lot of beautiful playgrounds and landscaping. Whereas where I lived in the States, people had their own little playground in their backyard. Everything was privatized. But there's much more of a public life here. It's very enjoyable. We live near a school. We can hear the kids playing. Everybody here is very nice. They say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. People are open. It's a real different atmosphere than in Detroit.
Speaking about that, in all your years living here, have you experienced any tragedies from the locals?
No. In fact, people listen to a lot of American music. People wear the same brands, Nike, Adidas, torn jeans. There's an indigenous element that wears traditional clothing and speaks Quechua, which is a Canary Inca language. Everybody's been very nice. In fact, one time, my wife was coming back from Detroit, and I went to the florist store to get her some flowers. And I told the salesperson, hey, my wife's coming back from the United States. And this little kid said, oh, Los Estados Unidos? Like it was some magical, special place. And a lot of people here, by the way, work in New York. They go back and forth, or in the past they did. Or they have worked in other cities in the United States for a number of years and sent remittances home. You see a lot of New York Yankees caps. I feel they have a lot of good feelings about the United States.
In all your 80 years of living, what is the meaning of life for you?
Well, it's kind of changed since I came here. Because the United States, they say, it's kind of a rat race. Or people say Americans are kind of like robots. Or here it's much more laid back. and you get a chance to think about your life, about what values you have. And I'm not sure that I can tell you what the meaning of life is, but I know my wife was in sales, and she would say it was all about relationships. Well, I know relationships matter a lot more to me now since I've been here, and friendship and relationships, people, than they did before in terms of material things. Seem to be more important in the United States. I think relationships, feelings, good feelings between people are more important to me. I can't say I know the meaning of life. That's it. But I can say that.
Very nice, very nice. What advice would you give for someone who is thinking of retiring here in Cuenca?
Just be open to enjoying a different culture, different people, a little bit different way of life, although we have all the modern amenities here. In the United States, I live in a house that was 80 years old. Here, I live in an apartment building that's only 8 years old. We have all the modern conveniences here, but just enjoy what Ecuador and Cuenca and Latin America have to offer, and don't try to live the same life you were living there here.
Very good advice. Thank you, David. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.